podcasting changed my business. It changed my life. For me, entrepreneurship is much more than a job or a career. It is literally in my name. I call myself Elzie the entrepreneur because I feel like entrepreneurship is a calling for me. Podcasting had a direct impact on me being able to live what I believe I was born to do.
Hey there, I'm Sadaf Bainan, and this is Pod Junction Podcast, the show where business leaders share how they use podcasting to grow, connect, and build their brands. Today, I'm talking to Elzie Flennard III, the entrepreneur, founder, and host of Journey to Mastery and author of Flame Starter. As the host of Journey to Mastery, Elzie dives into the realities of entrepreneurship and shares practical insights for thriving in today's digital economy. Elzie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk to a fellow podcaster. I do a lot of the hosting, not so much of the guesting, so I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Elzie, tell us about your podcast, how it started, what inspired it, and give us your story.
Yeah, so I am what I call an OG in podcasting.
Okay.
Started in 2016, so it's been 9 years and been going strong. I think I've missed 0 episodes in terms of publishing. So I was working my day job and side hustles because I knew I wanted to be a business owner, but I didn't know what, I didn't know how. In hindsight being 2020, it's just no wonder I was struggling because I didn't know what I was doing. And so one day I figured that I would interview business owners because they had figured out something that I hadn't figured out yet. And I would start a podcast, and that's how I was going to learn the missing ingredients of how to take my business from where it was to where I wanted to grow it. And so that's what I did. I reached out to all of the business owners I knew, which at the time that was almost 0. But I knew my barber had a business, right? And this was when I had hair. And I approached him. I said, "Hey, I'm starting a podcast, and I would love for you to be my first guest." And his response was, "What's a podcast?" and then once I explained to him what a podcast was, he's like, "Okay, sure, I'll be on your show." And then my daughter's dance teacher was my second guest. And then one of my daughter's dance teacher's competitors was my next guest. And then my realtor was my next guest. But by the 10th or 11th episode, people got wind that the podcast was out there, and they started to reach out to be guests. And something very, very beautiful was born. I started to, interview, real entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs and business owners. And I just asked them the questions that I wanted to know. How did you, when you were in my position, how did you market your business? How did you grow it? How did you build a team? How did you think about budgeting and all the questions? And so at some point, somebody got the great idea that they said, "Elzie, you're pretty decent at this podcast thing. You should help people start podcasts." And I thought, that's a fantastic idea, because I didn't have a strategy or a plan on how to monetize my podcast. I just knew I needed the information. And so that's what I did. And then the business was kind of birthed out of that necessity and people giving me that feedback. And so here we are 9 years later, 530 some odd episodes, and we're still going strong.
That is amazing. I love that story, Elzie. And I love how the podcast was a key part of your business strategy right from the very beginning.
No, it's podcasting. I'm a self-proclaimed podcast evangelist because it not only changed my business, it changed my life. For me, entrepreneurship is much more than a job or a career. It is literally in my name. I call myself Elzie the entrepreneur because I feel like entrepreneurship is a calling for me. And so podcasting, it had a direct impact on me being able to live what I believe I was born to do.
That's awesome. And I noticed you said, as you got the ball rolling with your barber and then your daughter's dance teacher, and then it kind of went from there. How did you do it to make sure? Because you said earlier that you'd never miss a publishing release date for 9 years. So did you
Right.
batch record? Is that the way you do it?
Not in the early days. I wasn't smart enough because I didn't know what I was doing. Now I batch record for sure. Mondays is filming day. I
Yeah.
film sometimes 3 to 4 podcasts that day, and that gets me ahead of production. But sometimes what I do is I'll film something that I was already going to do, like if it's a webinar or a training or something like that, and I'll strategically plan in the podcast for the most part, and then I can clip that out and use that as an episode on the podcast. And so I'm always actively and consciously thinking about how can I take what I'm already doing and repurpose it for the podcast or other content. Just because in my field, you have to be creating content, and not just any content, but content that resonates and gets value.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing that you said that really resonated with me, you were saying that you had all these business leaders come on your podcast so you could learn from them. It's such a fantastic way to educate yourself, to be a host, to have people on your show that know more than you so that you can learn from them.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, that's not hard to do because I only know a little bit about all the things that there is to know.
Yes.
And so to interview people who are deep subject matter experts, you just learn so much. And I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm curious by nature. And so it was a perfect fit.
Hence why it's Elzie the entrepreneur. The curiosity aspect is strong, isn't it, with entrepreneurs?
Yes.
I'm interested to know how your podcast supports your brand.
Yeah, it is literally the pillar of my brand. Everything from the type of people that I have on the show. In our spotlight episodes, we recently made the decision to do solo episodes primarily, but now we're reintroducing interviews because I just miss it so much, and because it's an opportunity again for me to go deeper with subject matter experts. For example, entrepreneurship is a very holistic craft, right? You have to be careful about your mindset. Your self mastery, self care, but you also have to take care of your physical body, because if you're out of shape and you're not healthy, then you can't show up as your best possible self. But you also have to understand messaging and communication and how to articulate the vision, both to your team and to partners and to the market. But you also need to have a methodology to get those things out there. So operations and marketing and strategy. And so all the things that you need are the things that we cover. And so kind of borrowing from the early Elzie, it's like, okay, how do I go deeper in these knowledge areas, right, without having to be the subject matter expert in all of them? And still give my audience value so that we're all growing together.
Yeah.
And to your question, right? How does the podcast play into the brand? So it serves as that foundational pillar so that I can express where I am on the journey, lessons that I've learned, potholes that I've fallen into so that other people don't fall into them. Insights and things that I've learned, I can share with my audience. And then I can bring spotlight guests on who are deep subject matter experts. Maybe it's a health and fitness guru where they know all about stretching and how, when you're in this season of life that I'm in, how stretching is more and more important, and exercise and diet and all the stuff. And so it really is the foundation of my entire brand, because in my coaching practice, that's what I'm helping entrepreneurs do, holistically taking care of themselves so that they can show up for everybody else. So it's literally the A and the Z of my brand. I mean, it revolves around the podcast.
What role does your podcast play in building trust with your coaching clients and your audience?
It plays a pivotal role. In fact, I don't remember where the study came from, but it was a few months ago, a study came out that podcast hosts are actually more trusted than any other content creator. And I thought, wow, it means that people trust their favorite podcast host more than they trust the evening news anchor.
Hmm.
And I thought that is impressive, kind of scary at the same time. But it's an amazing opportunity, right? As an entrepreneur, to know that when you host your podcast, that level of trust is something that is extremely expensive and extremely difficult to gain. And so it's a critical part of building trust.
Why do you think podcast hosts are so trusted?
I think a lot of it is, generally speaking, podcast hosts are authentic. They're genuine people. They are people who have a deep knowledge and passion for whatever it is that they're talking about. And people sense that. People know when you are truly passionate and care about something, as opposed to when you're just kind of doing it to make money. People know, and they feel that. I think also you're in their ear and in their eyeballs every week, twice a week, sometimes for some shows. And so, they get to know you. If a person who's listened to my show for 9 years, they know things about me that would be weird if we were to meet in person. They know about my daughter. They know about because it comes out in the show. And so you really get to know people on a deep level when you're a consistent listener of their show. And so I think for those reasons, right, that trust that's built is tangible, and I think it's deep.
If someone is wanting to start podcasting as a host, how should they run the show? How should they navigate the conversation in order to help build that trust with their audience?
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest thing when you're hosting a podcast is to understand the golden rule, is what I call it. It's about the listener or the viewer, period. They have to get value. They have to know that you can curate conversations and content that is going to make their lives better.
Yeah.
If you do that, then you'll be okay. If you start getting to the point where it's like, well, I want to inject what I think or what I want to hear, I think you start to lose some of that connection. But if you put the needs of the audience first and keep that in mind, I think you'll be okay. The technical stuff is the technical stuff.
Yeah.
You'll learn mic placement. You'll learn vocal inflection and how to ask better questions and all the stuff that comes along with it, right? Those are technical, mechanical things. But I think that strategically and overarching, if you learn the value of curating content that is changes people's lives, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah. What about if you have listeners or an audience that, you can look at the metrics and you're getting good downloads and people are listening, but you don't get much feedback? What do you do when you're trying to make sure that it's resonating with your audience? You just carry on, or how do you make sure you're continuing to connect with your audience?
Yeah, I think that's an age-old question. I think the person who figures that out is going to be a multimillionaire because we all know that, right?
Yeah.
But a couple of things on a practical level that I've done and am doing is excuse me, is creating a feedback loop. So maybe that's saying, pointing them to your email list where they can ask questions or they can suggest topics or guests or things like that, where they feel involved in the creation of the content.
Yeah.
One thing that we're literally in the process of testing now is we have a private community or channel where they can go and they can ask deeper questions about the content. They can, reference the books that we talk about, or they can reach out and connect with the guests, and just creating a space where they can go to feel like they're involved in the content and involved in the conversation. Are a couple of the ways that we're approaching that. And I think there are a few apps that you can put code on your site where I think SpeakPipe is one of them, where they can click on it and they can leave you a voice message, that type of thing. But just anything like that where you can involve them in the process, I think are all ways to know that it's resonating and that you're doing a good job.
Yeah. And going back to what you were saying before, if you're gaining that trust from them, it's more likely that when you open up those feedback loops, they will engage because they trust you and they know you.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Elzie, podcasting can be powerful. We know that, but it's not always smooth sailing. What challenges have you faced yourself or seen other people face when they're trying to launch or scale a podcast?
I think the biggest one is monetizing it, right? That's the thing that everybody wants to do. And so for me, it shifted over the years. When I first started, as I said, I didn't have a strategy. I didn't know, like, if people downloaded and listened, that was great. But I really just wanted to get in front of business owners and learn from them. But as we got more established, the goal for the show changed and shifted into, okay, I need to make money doing this thing. And so I think that's been the hardest part.
Yeah.
But I think once you figure it out, it's a really cool thing to know, okay, I'm putting all the time, the effort, the money into this thing, and now I'm getting a return on investment. The best advice I can give in that way is just really focusing on the one thing. I think a lot of podcasters try to do too many monetization strategies at the same time and end up not being able to make any of them work. So really just understanding your audience and what they want and need, and then providing something of value to them that you can focus on and streamline and leverage the podcast to scale that.
Do you have any examples?
So for me, what I do is I leverage it to move people to my private community. So called the Journey Feed. And what the Journey Feed is it's like, think LinkedIn or Facebook, but it's private. There's no algorithm getting in the way of us communicating. I share stuff that I don't share on social media. And so it's a way to go deeper in our relationship. And again, it's a way to create that feedback loop. And then what I do from there is I nurture folks, and then we have weekly meetings, and then I at some point offer them to join my coaching or mastermind or mentorship community. And so for me, that's the journey. It's like, okay, you're listening to the podcast. Let's go a little bit deeper into the membership community, and then if it's a value add and a benefit to you, I have a paid version of this where we go deeper into the 4 pillars of mastery, and we help you grow your business and grow yourself and personal development into the Journey Crew. So that's how I'm monetizing my show.
Yeah.
It looks different for everybody. I think the main thing is just understanding what that should look like for you, and sticking to it.
Yeah. And do you have conversations with people who are looking for that ROI quite quickly, like early on in their podcasting journey? Because we know that podcasting is a long game. So I guess it's just setting expectations.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is the people who want the quick return are the ones who pod fade after 7 to 10 episodes.
Yeah.
The people that come in, they understand that it's an investment, are generally the people that I'm seeing have the success.
Yeah, that's right. What are some lessons you have learned in your own podcasting journey that have perhaps surprised you? I know 9 years was a long time ago, but if you can think back.
From a technical perspective, redundancy. When I record my show, I'm recording it on my local hard drive.
Okay.
I'm recording it in the cloud. We use a different platform. I won't say the name on here. So we're recording it in different places so that if something happens in one place, we still have it in the other place.
Gotcha.
I think the biggest thing that surprised me was just how much the industry shifts and changes. When I first started, I would go to networking events and I was literally the only person that had a podcast. And about 50% of the people didn't even know what a podcast was. Now, when I go to a networking meeting, most people have a podcast and everybody knows what a podcast is. And so it's been really fascinating to watch the industry mature and change in a really, really good way. And I'm excited about the next 10 years of podcasting. I think the future's bright for the medium. Again, I love the medium because it changed my life, it changed my business. So, that's the thing. When I first started, I don't think I had a good view of the potential of the medium and where it could go. Whereas now I really do have an appreciation for the impact of podcasting and the bright future that it has.
Yeah. Talk to me more about how you see it playing out in the next 10 years.
Yeah. In the next 10 years, my prediction is that if you're a business owner, you will be involved in the podcast space in one or all three of these following ways.
Okay.
You will either host a podcast, you will guest on podcasts, or you will partner or sponsor podcasts. You might do all three, but you will be in the podcast space in one of those three ways.
Why is that?
It's the most effective way to build trust. It's the most effective way to grow your influence, to build an audience. It's, in my mind, one of the best ways to learn new things, to network and meet new people on a strategic level. It's the best way to have a content pillar that you can repurpose across all platforms. I mean, I could go on and on and on for hours, right? But it's just as a business, it's just it's too lucrative and valuable in terms of a brand asset to not be involved. I think you will be involved in one of those three ways.
Yeah. And you said all businesses. I often think there's a lot of industries that are still quite underserved that you don't hear a lot of. I think that would be quite interesting to have podcasts about all the different businesses and industries that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, even if you don't host a show or guest on shows, your business had better be advertising on podcasts, right? Because podcast hosts are the number one trusted content creators.
Yes.
So you should probably borrow that trust, right?
Yeah. Any other lessons that come to mind?
The other lesson, so here's a big one.
Okay.
Right. So I am a communicator. And sometimes communicators think that the more that they communicate, the better. But the lesson that I've learned is that it's actually better to listen than it is to talk.
Yes. Say that again for the people in the back, Elzie.
Sometimes it's better to listen than it is to talk.
Yes.
And that was a big lesson for me. And so when I'm having a conversation with somebody and then they say something like, man, Elzie, you're a really good listener, I kind of raise my hands in victory because I've actively worked on being an effective listener. So I think that's a huge lesson that I've learned over this 9 years of doing this whole podcast thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that comes through in the hosting role that you would play.
Yeah, I hope so. I try hard. I try hard to be a great listener and a great host.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great. Where do you see Journey to Mastery going?
So I'm going to make this statement on your podcast, and you're going to have to hold me accountable to this. Okay. I can't believe I'm even saying this out loud. So one day, Journey to Mastery will be a daily show where Sunday through Saturday, we're hosting a show every single day of the year. And that makes me exhausted just thinking about it. But that's where I want to be, because to me, there's that many entrepreneurs that need to be spotlighted. There's that many, mindset, mission, message, and method topics that we can cover. And there's going to be more and more entrepreneurs as the market continues to shift and change. And that's my contribution to the world, is making sure that entrepreneurs are healthy, that they're vibrant, and that they are giving what they need to give to the world. And they can't do that unless they're optimized. And that is the mission of Journey to Mastery. So I want to do it 7 days a week.
Wow. That's a big goal. I'm really impressed. And I will hold you to that. And we'll have you back on the show and find out how that's going.
Yeah, and we can send work you guys' way for what you guys do. So you
That'd
can
be
help
awesome.
us with the back end and the production and all the good stuff.
Sounds like a plan. But yeah, tell me, daily show, how long would the episodes be?
Yeah, so my show is 10 minutes or less because I know my listener, very busy.
Yeah.
We are founders, we're CEOs, we're entrepreneurs. Long form works in for a number of different shows and different reasons. But for us, 10 minutes, I'm going to give you the highlight, the point, one thing that you can take away, and then you start your day and you're off and running.
Yeah.
So that won't change. I'll have to hone my listening and hosting skills to still get the value in less than 10 minutes, because it's easier to do when you have 40 minutes than it is when you just have 10 minutes. And so you have to be, I'll have to hone my skills on being able to pull out valuable nuggets and information in a shorter amount of time. That's short, that's impactful, but is, helping both highlight my guest and add value to the audience. So really it's a personal challenge to me as well to be as effective as I can be at executing that and doing it at a high level.
Yeah, that really is a skill. And I'm very impressed, Elzie. I love it. Elzie, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your insights, your story, and your vision for the future. That's very inspiring.
Yeah, it's inspiring, but exhausting.
Yeah, sounds it, but I'm sure it'll pay off.
No, I appreciate the time, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Elzie, before we wrap up though, if someone wanted to reach out to you, learn more about what you do, listen to the podcast, where would they go to connect with you?
So it's pretty simple. Just my website, elzieflenard.com, ELZIEFLENARD.com.
Thank you. And to those listening, if this episode has opened your eyes to how podcasting could be more than just a marketing channel, if it could actually shape your business model or your influence, I hope it's given you something to think about. Elzie, thanks again for being here, and bye for now.